Welcome to another episode of SpaceX in the News, where I search out SpaceX current events from all around the internet and compile them right here in one convenient location just for you. My name's Kevin, and today we're going to start off with some exciting news concerning Starhopper. Then we'll get caught up on the latest happenings with Starship. We'll revisit the Crew Dragon and take a look at the upcoming Cargo Dragon mission. We'll talk about Elon Musk, then we'll finish things off with today's honorable mention. It's a special one. Let's get started. Okay, so let's recap. A few days ago, Starhopper did its static fire test, and things got pretty heated. The burn itself looked good, but after, it appeared as though part of the rocket was on fire. SpaceX attempted to drown out the flames, but basically gave us all a second show. Eventually, they did put out the fires, and Starhopper looked pretty unscathed. Immediately following, word was getting around that the test was anything but nominal, and all of SpaceX's road closures in Boca Chica were now open, and crippling depression for all of us soon followed. It appeared as though Starhopper's planned 20-meter hover test wasn't going to happen anytime soon. But lo and behold, Elon Musk to the rescue. Elon tweeted that the anomaly was a post-test fuel leak, but that there was also no major damage. One of the advantages of being made of high-strength stainless steel, a little heat won't bother it. And here we go, that they are aiming for its hover test next week. I'm so happy. I mean, yeah, if you look at Austin and Maria's pictures here, taken right after the test, you can see that everything looks fine. It doesn't look all burnt and crispy. And locals are capturing SpaceX clues prepping for its first official launch. Now moving over to Starhopper, the wind-breaking structure next to the vehicle has reached its max height, or so we believe, but it was pointed out by some eagle-eyed community members that Starship is suffering some structural integrity issues. A portion of the hull has collapsed in on itself a little bit, and some strongbacks have been installed to support it. Now, Starship's prototype is nicknamed Starhopper, although some of the locals have also nicknamed it Rio. Starship in Boca Chica doesn't have a nickname, it's just called the Mark I Starship. So as of today, I hereby propose that we nickname the Starship Dimps. Haha, Dimps. And hey, I'm not saying Dimps isn't a pretty vehicle. I mean, just look at this really cute photo with the moon in the background. It's very romantic. But if I were to show you the Mark II Starship in Cocoa, Florida, you'd have to admit that she's looking pretty slick. So that's what I shall call her, slick. And since we have this picture up, just take a look at the piece between these two hull sections. It appears to be maybe the second bulkhead for one of the tanks that will go inside the vehicle. Okay, so Crew Dragon, we finally have an update concerning the anomaly that happened a couple months back. And in it, SpaceX writes that the initiation of the final test of 8 Super Draco thrusters resulted in destruction of the vehicle. And further, that evidence shows that a leaking component allowed liquid oxidizer, in this case it was nitrogen tetroxide, which was that really nasty chemical we talked about in our breaking news episode concerning this explosion. It was that red gas you saw in the video. It allowed it to enter high-pressure helium tubes during ground processing. A slug of this NTO was driven through a helium check valve at high speed during rapid initialization of the launch escape system, which is those 8 Super Draco thrusters, resulting in structural failure within the check valve. The failure of the titanium component in a high-pressure NTO environment was sufficient enough to cause ignition of the check valve and led to an explosion. So basically, in a nutshell, some of this NTO leaked backwards through a valve in a place it wasn't supposed to be, and when the engine started up, all the pressure that went through those tubes forced it through the valve and broke the valve apart and then caused the explosion. Scott Manley put together a video that was really well done, and in it he explains exactly what went on behind this anomaly. I highly recommend you watch it. But while we're on the topic of Crew Dragon, SpaceX just released a new YouTube video concerning their parachute tests. I only bring this up because my subscribers already know I'm obsessed with parachutes. They are awesome. Yes, retropulsively landing a rocket is awesome, but I like parachutes too. We can have both. So the upcoming flight is CRS-18. It's a resupply mission to the International Space Station and supposed to launch Sunday evening. This will be the first time that NASA reuses a Block 5 booster, and maybe the first time that a Cargo Dragon capsule will go to space for a third time. And if successful, NASA is considering using the same booster again on CRS-19. Elon Musk was recently interviewed by Time, and he was asked if he had to bet his house on it, when would he say that the next boot prints on the moon would be? To which he responded, quote, "Well, this is going to sound pretty crazy, but I think we could land on the moon in less than 2 years. Certainly with an uncrewed vehicle, I believe we could land on the moon in 2 years. So then maybe within a year or two of that, we could be sending a crew. I would say 4 years at the outside." Time followed up with the question, do you mean the US or NASA, or you mean SpaceX? For the record, SpaceX is a US company. And Elon responded, quote, "I'm not sure. If it were to take longer to convince NASA and the authorities that we can do it versus just doing it, then we might just do it. It may literally be easier just to land Starship on the moon than try to convince NASA that we can. Obviously, this is a decision that is out of my hands, but the sheer amount of effort required to convince a large number of skeptical engineers at NASA that we can do it is very high. And not unreasonably so, because they're like, come on, how could this possibly work? The skepticism, they'd have good reasons for it. But the for sure way to end the skepticism is just to do it. This is something I talked about in an episode months ago. I was always curious what exactly SpaceX's role in NASA's Artemis project would have. Artemis is NASA's way to get permanent boots back on the lunar surface using a space station around the moon. And for the most part, NASA's been largely ignoring the fact that SpaceX is constructing Starship, and not just one of them, too. So I always found it curious as to why SpaceX even entertains the idea of Artemis. And look, I admire NASA, at least the NASA of the 1960s. And when Administrator Bridenstine came on the scene with his go-get-'em attitude, I admired him too. But I think there's right ways and wrong ways to go back to the moon and eventually to Mars. And it all comes back to reusability. Starship will be cheaper, more efficient, less moving pieces. It won't need a space station around the moon or a capsule and a rocket, blah, blah, blah. You just need a super heavy booster in the Starship. And for the most part, it's privately funded. Not so much government waste. Therefore, it's more practical. I think NASA should get behind SpaceX on this project. But hey, while we're on the topic of NASA, I bet you didn't know that it's the 50th year anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing. That's what we're going to talk about in today's honorable mention. On July 16, 1969, Commander Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins took off for the moon on the largest rocket ever flown to this day, the mighty Saturn V. 4 days later, on July 20th, 1969, 50 years ago today, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed the lunar module, the Eagle, on the surface of the moon. 6 hours and 39 minutes later, Armstrong took man's first steps on another heavenly body.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Neil Armstrong is from Wapakoneta, Ohio, near my hometown, and the community has been celebrating this achievement all month. And today I'll be at the Armstrong Air and Space Museum in Wapak to celebrate with him. Now before I go, here's a special message from Kevin in the kitchen.
Hey, thanks Kevin in the office. So this package was sent to me by Master Replicas Group. They're an online shop that makes movie props, dinosaur fossil replicas, as well as space collectibles. So from time to time they reach out to me and they ask me to do a review of some of their products. They don't pay me to do it, but I get to keep what they send me. And a lot of their stuff on their website is pretty cool. Now I did already know what they were going to send me. It's for the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. However, this has been sitting in my room for several weeks now, and I've just been itching at opening it because I'm really excited for it. I've wanted this since the second I saw it on their website. It's Neil Armstrong's boot print on the moon. It's like a plaque. It's so sweet. Wow. This thing's actually really big. Dude. All right, so here it is. Now, unlike the previous two plaques that have like a metal frame that goes around it, this is just the casting itself. It's a big shoe print. Neil must have been a size 18 moon boot. Here's a little card that comes with it that explains what exactly you got here. It's called One Small Step, Apollo Boot Print. It's a life-size replica of the imprint left by astronauts' boots in the fine powdery lunar soil. Using a process called photogrammetry, artist Whitney Potter combined modern computer technology with close-up photos taken on the moon to produce an extraordinary 3D rendering of the lunar surface. From this artist, Jeff, I'm gonna butcher this name, Stanislavski, rendered a printable 3D form that captured every nuance of texture and detail. This is as close as you can get to owning a casting of the actual boot prints that are still on the surface of the moon. There's no weathering on the moon, so everything that's on the moon is exactly the same as it was when astronauts were on it, unless a meteor impacted and destroyed it all. Each replica is hand cast and hand finished by our artisan from super strong, smooth on resin for durability. MRG replicas are made to last a lifetime. Man, thank you so much, MRG, for sending this to me. I really do love it and I really appreciate it. If you guys watching this video would like one, I'll put a link to their website in the description. Go ahead, check it out, show them your love and support. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until the next video, Godspeed.
Big shout out and thank you to all my cloud licking patrons. If it wasn't for them, this show would not be what it is today. And if you enjoy watching these videos, please consider becoming a patron yourself. For as little as $1, you can get access to more cloud licking content. There's a link in the description. And hey, while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode, and give this video a like. God bless you.